The Mas Beach Distillery. The Mas Beach Distillery in Mas Beach, California is well known on the California coast both for its great food and fantastic views, but also for its ghosts. Mas Beach Distillery originally opened in 1927 as Frank's Place, a highly successful speakeasy during the Prohibition era. It was a popular hotspot for movie stars, politicians from San Francisco, and well-known gangsters. Even rumored to have been a brothel at one point, it was a place where shady deals went down. The most well-known ghost of the distillery is the Lady in Blue, said to be the ghost of Mary Ellen, a beautiful young lady who loved wearing blue dresses. The Lady in Blue met a handsome piano player named John Contina. Already married, Mary Ellen fell for Mr. Contina, and the two soon entered into an adulterous affair. The lovers met frequently for moonlit walks in the beach and encounters at the Marine View Hotel, which was located next to the distillery, overlooking the cliffs. The romance ended tragically on a stormy November night, as Mary Ellen died in a horrific automobile accident on Old Bayshore Highway. Ironically, at the same time, the piano player was also having an affair with a local lady named Anna Philbrick. Anna discovered John's deceit and flung herself off the cliffs near the distillery, drowning in the kelp beds below. Contino later met with a tragic death himself, as his decapitated body was found washed up ashore near the distillery. It is rumored that a jealous husband decided to take revenge, but Contino's death is still an unsolved mystery. The Lady in Blue has been witnessed by dozens of people, often in the cliffs surrounding the building, warning children and other guests not to play too close to the edge. There are numerous reports of poltergeist activity and other paranormal activity, including incessant telephones ringing with no caller on the other end, cases of wine repeatedly being moved with no one accountable, random objects being tossed around, and doors mysteriously slamming shut. Winchester Mystery House. Originally begun in 1844 by Sarah Winchester, heiress of the Winchester rifle fortune, the mansion began as a humble 6-room home. Now, the sprawling structure has more than 160 rooms and is like a labyrinth of intrigue and suspense. Driven by guilt over the many deaths that her husband's rifle business had caused, Mrs. Winchester was supposedly driven by ghosts to continually build onto the Victorian-style mansion over a period of 40 years. Legend has it that ghosts inspired Mrs. Winchester to keep building onto the house that never ends. It has even been speculated that Sarah constructed the house in such a manner as to confuse or trap ghosts so they could not disturb her further. In later years of her life, she even slept in a different room every night, hoping to avoid repeated ghostly hauntings. Today, the mansion is a tourist attraction. Filled with modern amenities, the Winchester Mystery House includes button-operated lighting, almost 50 fireplaces, parquet floors, and magnificent chandeliers. Almost every window has 13 panes of glass. Most floors contain 13 sections, and all but one staircase has 13 steps. Sarah Winchester was one of the wealthiest, most influential women in America during her time, and as she claimed, she was haunted by the spirits of the hundreds if not thousands of souls killed by Winchester rifles. Additionally, there have been numerous ghostly appearances in the house and on the property, and visitors often report hearing mysterious voices, footsteps, and doors slamming when no one is in the room. Cold spots and strange lights or orbs are frequently reported as well. Alcatraz Island. Long before Alcatraz Island came to host many of the most notorious criminals known to man, it was known by Native Americans as a place that contained evil spirits. Calling it Ohlone, a Miwok Indian word meaning Western people, these Native Americans used the island as a place of punishment for members violating tribal laws. Alcatraz Island received its first prisoner in the 1850s in the form of U.S. military prisoners who were placed there to build a defensive fort and eventually a new prison. This new prison later became known as the Rock. Through the years, Alcatraz served many purposes, from a military base to one of the most infamous prisons in American history. Before its closure in 1963, Alcatraz housed prisoners like Al Capone and other notoriously ruthless criminals. There have been numerous ghostly encounters on Alcatraz Island. Some of the most famous or infamous stories include the corridor, where 3 inmates were gunned down while trying to escape. Cell Block C, a visiting psychic wrote that while in Block C he came upon a disruptive spirit named Butcher. Prison records show that another inmate in Block C murdered Abby Maldovitz, a mob hitman known as Butcher, and the ghost of Al Capone. Capone spent his last years in Alcatraz. There have been many supposed appearances by the dead gangster. From the early American Indian belief that the island was evil, to the initial prisoners who both worked and died on the island during its prison transformation in the 1850s, to the many murders committed within the prison walls, it's not hard to understand why so many people firmly believe that the paranormal activity at Alcatraz Island is real. Borden House. In 1892, both Lizzie's father and stepmom were slaughtered in the Borden home. Lizzie Borden stood trial for the brutal murders, but was acquitted. Lizzie herself actually discovered the body of her father on the first floor of the Borden family home. The only other person in the house at the time was the maid, who was upstairs napping. Lizzie called out for the maid to come downstairs. Lizzie said that her father had apparently been killed when she was at the barn. He had been hacked in the face and the head with an axe or hatchet. After the authorities were called, Abby, Lizzie's stepmom, was found dead in a bedroom of the home. Abby had also been hacked many times throughout her face and body with an axe or hatchet. Later, tests revealed that Abby had actually died 1 or 2 hours before Andrew. Because Andrew Borden died without a will, this meant that his estate worth about $300,000 to $500,000 would go to his daughters, including Lizzie, and not to Abby's heirs. Many people have speculated over the years that Lizzie committed the murders so she would not be taken out of the family's inheritance. Lizzie Borden died at Fall River, Massachusetts in 1927. Her legend as a murderess haunted her to the remainder of her life. She was buried next to her father and stepmom. The home in which the murders took place opened as a museum and bed and breakfast in 1992. Numerous guests at the Lizzie Borden bed and breakfast have reported hearing voices of a lady softly weeping in the night, only to investigate and find no one there. Other guests have seen shoes move across the floor, while some have had an older lady in traditional dress tuck them in at night. Lights are reported to flicker. Video equipment is suddenly turned on and off, and cameras work when no one is using them but won't work when you expect them to. All distinct signs of paranormal activity. So that's it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like. Until the next video, goodbye.